keynote sessions, which will explore the rethinking of English language education in the age of AI, while also offering practical perspectives on how artificial intelligence can be meaningfully applied in today's classroom. This session will be delivered by distinguished speakers and guided by an equally exceptional moderator. To moderate this session and introduce our keynote speaker, it is my honor to invite Mr. Alexi Wahyudiputra S.Hum M.Hum, lecturer at the Faculty of Humanities, Universitas Erlangga, to please come forward.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone here is already full and not sleepy, at least, because usually this is a critical time, as most of us here always say, after lunch. And then what happens after lunch? Then a nap. But I hope it won't be a sleepy session after this. Accompanying me in this session, as introduced by the MC, allow me to introduce myself as well. My name is Alexi Wahyudiputra, or you can call me Alex. And accompanying this session, there will be two sessions. There will be two speaking sessions coming from our distinguished speakers. The first one, and I would like to introduce as well to come forward, Professor Hingwei Chen, or Chen. I hope I'm not butchering your name. And please, a round of applause. And then the second speaker, who sadly cannot join us today due to personal reason, Andrew Stokes, but he'll be joining through Zoom. And then his material today will be delivered through pre-recorded video. So right after Prof. Chen will deliver his talk, then we'll get to Mr. Stokes. Now, for the first session by Professor Chen, and allow me to introduce as well a little bit of your CV, which is quite extensive, but I'm not gonna describe all. Professor Hingwei Chen was the immediate past dean of the International College and the College of Humanities and Social Sciences at Asia University, Taiwan. And he is now a professor emeritus at Asia University. He had a BA and MA degrees in English literature at the degree in English literature at the University of Maryland, College Park. And his research areas mainly lie in Victorian literature, post-colonial literature, English for specific purposes, and cultural studies. And he has published extensive publications, whether it's books or journal articles. And now he also received the Asia Education Leadership Award, an honor offered by the World Education Congress. And currently, he serves as the president of Taiwan Association for the Development of International Education Program. And today's talk, in today's talk, the title will be Rethinking English Language Education for Universities in the Age of Generative AI and Global Englishes. Professor Chen will deliver his talk, and then the Q&A, just like before, will be delivered right after the second talking by Mr. Stokes. So, Prof. Chen, the honor is mine to give the floor to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Alex, for your kind introduction. I think this session is pretty difficult for everybody, especially for the speaker, okay? Just how to keep you awake, okay? Actually, for what I try to say is I am put in a very difficult situation, in a dilemma. So I'll start my presentation with personal dilemma. I was trained in English department for the bachelor degree, okay? At that time, it's more or less language teaching and literature, a combination, okay? I received my bachelor degree from National Taiwan Normal University. It's like your teacher's university, like UNJ, etc. Then I moved to my master level, focusing on literature, English literature. graduate from National Taiwan University with a my master degree in literature. Then I got a Fulbright scholarship, and went to the United States for my PhD in literature. So you can call me 100% a humanities professor. Okay, unlike Jati, Professor Jati, okay, or some other professors, 100%, you know, and deep in my heart, you know, back in my bone, I'm sort of against sciences. So I start with this, just to let you know, perhaps we are in the same boat, okay, for literature teachers or for language teachers, we are in the same boat, okay? But the reality is, we need to develop our AI literacy. We need to develop our educational knowledge in order to become a competent language teachers. Once, you know, generative AI like ChatGPT was launched in the year 2020, the teaching paradigm has already shifted. So we are living in the age where traditional teaching method no longer works. Think about what happened in the past. You teach your student, you push all types of information to your student. You push information. But now, if you want to encourage your student to use ChatGPT or Gemini, the first thing your student need to do is to ask questions. Without asking, without prompt, they simply get no answer, right? But in the past, it's the teacher who always give the answer to the student. Now the student need to take the initiative to ask questions. So you see the big difference. In the past, it's push, push, push. Today, it's pulling, Okay, so even for humanities professor, as the old saying goes, the old dog needs to learn new tricks. If as an old dog, you refuse to learn new tricks, eventually you will become outdated. That would be my hearty advice to you, okay? It doesn't matter how old are you, it doesn't matter what kind of, teaching approach you use, but AI is with us, has become a daily reality. So I hope through my presentation, I can give you some kind of pep up, okay, some kind of encouragement. Using AI, it doesn't matter what subject you teach. Actually, before the presentation, one lecturer just approached me. In our language class, we simply do not teach literature because students refuse to take literature. If you use literature as a content, subject content, I don't think young people today love literature that much. But if you use literature as a methodology, that's all difference. So why just use literature as methodology? You cannot change your student, then you need to change yourself. That would be my advice. Okay, so my topic for today is rethinking English language education for universities. I'm talking about the university level, not the high school level, in the age of generative AI and global English. So actually, we are dealing with two, issues, global Englishes, generative AI, in relation to our language teaching. Oh, sorry. What happened? Oh, okay. So this is my presentation outline. I start with the human touch. the human touch. I think Professor Jati and Diat, Professor Diat, talk about, AI. At the moment, what AI lacks, what we have, our advantage is consciousness. If one day, think about this, if one day AI gains consciousness, then there is the real dangerous moment for human beings. Because AI, in that sense, is 100% like human, or even far, smarter than human. Okay, but at this stage, at least, yesterday, when Professor Jati arrived, I kept asking him, Professor Jati, you are an expert in AI area. Do you think AI has consciousness? He said, no, at the moment. But let me tell you, a lot of, researchers are doing this. Whether AI has consciousness, or can they create AI with consciousness? Once AI has consciousness, the scenario will be totally different. Okay, so you can keep watching on this issue, the development of consciousness of AI. Okay, so the human touch. Okay, and then the scholar's dilemma. That's my dilemma. This is my dilemma. I was trained in a very vertical manner, like most Indonesian scholars. Math, bachelor, master, bachelor, PhD, math for bachelor, math for master, math for PhD. You call linear, vertical. I used to argue with several of your university rectors. I said this is quite rigid, quite ridiculous. But they say, oh, no, this is our practice. When you start your bachelor as a math student, when you move to the master, you need to be a math student. For the PhD, also a math PhD. That was my training. This is called vertical. In the past, being vertical should be okay. But with AI today, we have to change from vertical to horizontal. The whole system need to be changed. Even your educational system need to be changed. I come from Taiwan. In Taiwan, the change has taken place about 15 years ago. I just give you one example. I used to be the dean of the humanities and social sciences and the dean of the International College. Under my jurisdiction, we have more than 1,000 students and teachers. All the teachers, all the students are required to learn AI, to learn programming language. We have 1 year AI, 1 year programming language. Don't forget, they are not science majors, they are humanities students. So all the students need to pass programming language, need to pass AI courses, okay? So about 50 years ago, we start to move from vertical to horizontal. So I think in the age of AI, my advice is try to make your thinking mode as horizontal as possible. And I'm going to give you some example. You remember Steve Jobs in his address at Stanford University. He talked about 3 stories. And the first story he emphasized connecting the dots. That's the point. You have pieces in different areas. Your ability is to, put all these different pieces into a coherent landscape. That's the ability, okay? So then I'm going to say a little bit about the status of English, and I think you're most familiar with this, except, I will address the so-called ownership of English to many Indonesian teachers, to many Indonesian students. They think English belong to the Australians, the Americans, the British. Okay. But today, who owns English? Nobody. Nobody owns English. That means everybody owns English. English belongs to everybody. Okay. I'm standing here speaking English. You're sitting there listening in English. So we own English. Okay. So ownership. And then why during AI age, English still matters? English is even more important than in the past for a very simple reason. If you use ChatGPT, if you use Gemini, for example, I use Gemini, use GPT pretty often. I raise a question, give a prompt in Mandarin Chinese and in English, the same question, but I get quite different answers. The one with English is better. Mandarin is not that good. Perhaps Bahasa Indonesia could be even worse. So you see that ChatGPT, because they use large language model, language needs to be digitized first before they can access to the data. But unfortunately, at the moment, English is the most important language, digital, ready for use by all this generative AI. And then I'm going to talk about teaching textual power, and this could be an answer to the lecturer who asked me how to teach literature. We keep telling students, you need to read literature, but we use literature with a big L, capital L. When literature is spelled with a big L, okay, then it's intimidating. Because students find literature too what? Too mysterious, too incomprehensive, too imaginative. It's beyond their reality. So don't say literature with a big L. In my class, I keep saying, I'm going to teach you texts, T-E-X-T-S, texts. That's literature with a small L. Anything that is written is text. You send a text a message to your friend. That's literature. That's literature. You see a poster, that's literature. So when you think about whether to include literature for your language teaching, you need to change the so-called canonical concept of literature. Okay, the traditional classic of literature. Literature today, I just offer the advice to the lecturer approach me. Just use literature as a methodology. Don't teach literature as content. Then you come to realize using literature for language class will mean totally different new experience. And then my conclusion is informing, like generative AI, just give us a lot of facts, information, but we need to engage the students as humans. Okay, that will be my conclusion. Okay, let me begin with this. Okay, this is always the first PowerPoint I use in my class. And I use this once again. And this, to the language teacher, I believe is the rare moment in your class. Rare in the sense that only when you have this moment, language itself can invite your student to experience, to make discovery. Okay, so how you start your class with a moment like this, to me, is important. It's a very short poem called 40 Love. What does it mean by 40 love? What does it mean by 40 love? Huh? Love in the 40s, right? You are in your 20s, so you cannot experience 40 love. Okay. Yeah. Love, 40 love means love in the 40s. So how do you feel when you have love in the 40s? You can read out loud, middle-aged couple, okay, playing tennis. When the game ends and they go home, the net will still be there. They play tennis together to strengthen their or improve their relationship. But after the game is over, the net, the barrier, psychological barrier, still exists. In other words, the relationship is not improved at all. Okay. So 40 love, you can ask a student why the title is called 40 love. Easy answer is love in the 40s. Yes, your students' parents about 40s. So that's their parents' love, right? But if you look at this poem, you visually, it looked like a tennis court, right? It looked like a tennis court. And you can imagine a line in the middle is the net in between. Okay, they are playing tennis for the love. What else can you say about this? What else can you say about this? For the love? Mhm.
But maybe the length of the word or some of the words were split.
Okay, even the shape itself tells a lot. But actually, 40 love, one simple meaning is love in the 40s. But if you're good at playing tennis, you know the scoring, right? Love means 0. One gains 0 point, one gains 40 points. In other words, real competition. You can keep asking your student who gains 0 point, who gains 40 points. The common answer from your student is my daddy, my father gains 40 points, my mom 0. You keep asking why? Why your mom is always 0? Why the daddy is 40? Because men are stronger. Yeah, that's their, their answer. But how about if the mother gets 40 points? You ask your student, but what if your mother gets 40 points instead of your father? What is going to happen? They will say they will fight. So using this very simple poem, you can discuss a lot of issues like gender, sexuality, all this. So my point is, this is texts. We don't have to call it literature. This is texts. So in your language class, if you can produce text like this for your student, I don't think it's too difficult for your student, right? Except the teacher need to guide the student how to read a poem. And to me, a language teacher should be good at using these kind of texts so that you can, motivate your student. The key point is to engage. If your students are not engaged, their learning effect should not be too good, okay? This is another famous short poem, the shortest in English, literature. Just one line. How could you read this? Could you read this? How to read this? If you skip the parenthesis, yeah, loneliness, right? Loneliness, a leaf falls. That's the feeling of loneliness, a leaf falls, okay? Again, this is a text, okay? You don't have to call this a poem. It's a text, how to engage your student with this kind of texts, okay? So back to the question raised by the lecturer, you don't have to use literature as content. You use literature as methodology, okay? Okay, and this is me. This is me, okay? Talking about the dilemma I am put, okay, in two cultures. Actually, the two notion of the two cultures is a famous quote of C.P. Snow. He talked about science and humanities, always in separate, areas. But how to merge, how to make use of these separate domains, okay? So the two cultures. And this is another important theorist, Bakhtin from Russia. Bakhtin used to be a very influential, theorist. He talks about the nature of science, monologic, the nature of humanities, dialogic. So humanities is dialogic. In other words, need to be engaged in subjects in dialogue, okay? And I, in particular, mention this. You cannot imagine if you are of my age, okay? When I was a PhD student in the United States, I write my PhD thesis not through computer, not through internet. It's typewriter. That's the typewriter I used about 40 years ago. About 40 years ago. So what happened is I finished typing 2 pages. Then a new idea suddenly come up. Oh, I have to include this new idea in the paragraph. I retype, destroy and retype, destroy and retype. So you are lucky today because you have the internet, you have the computer, you don't have to use this. So you see the progress of technology from typewriter to computer to generative AI. And actually, I just want to mention to you, actually, so long as you make good use of educational technology, it doesn't matter, ChatGPT or Gemini or some others, so long as you can make good use of educational technology and it works for your education, for your teaching, it's a good tool, okay? It's a good tool. Okay, so this is something I want to share with you. Just we need to shift from vertical thinking to horizontal thinking. In Indonesia, as I mentioned, and like Taiwan in the past, the education is linear, but that's not okay for today's, education system. So I use one good example. Perhaps if you haven't read the book, you can buy the book and read. Very touching book called When Breath Becomes Air. Written by neuroscientists, neurodoctor, born in India, educated in the United States. He measured English literature for bachelor. For the master, shift to science. When he moved to the PhD, he was in a dilemma to take English literature for PhD or take science. Eventually, he decided on neuroscience. Imagine, could this happen in Indonesia? No, not even in Taiwan. Impossible, impossible. But he's a living example, okay? When breath becomes, air, unfortunately, because of cancer, he died pretty young, just 2 or 3 years ago, okay? Very young. but you come to realize AI breaks away the boundaries. AI is by all means not vertical, it's horizontal. So in the age of AI, you need to change your thinking mode from vertical to horizontal. Okay. And now let's me move a little bit to the status of English. Okay. That's English, it's hybrid. In other words, it borrow, components from other languages. It's a hybrid. Just give you some idea, actually French 29%, Latin 29%. The origin Germanic only percent. Okay. I think even someday Indonesia, Bahasa Indonesia could become part of the English language, like Typhoon, for example, that's from Mandarin Chinese. We have the expression, long time no see, right? You all understand when I say, oh, long time no see, you understand what I mean. In China, in Taiwan, when we meet a person, we say hello to a person. What do we say? Have you eaten? 吃饱了没? In Taiwanese, 吃饱没? Not because we care about that person, whether he's angry or not, but that's the convention, the way to say hello. So eventually, like Selamat pagi will become part of English language. Eventually, my understanding, 2 countries will decide the future of the English language. One is India. One is China. You could say Indonesia could be the 3rd country. Given the population of your country, I don't know. But obviously, the Chinese language is affecting English. But no surprise, because English has remained hybrid. Okay, has remained hybrid. And I think that's English in the past. In the past, English is the ruler's language. So I think if you are familiar with Shakespeare, The Tempests, okay, the Duke taught a native, the master language, and then the servant used the master language to curse the master. So in the past, we learned English to curse the British, right? That's the status in the past, okay? But today, totally different. It's a lingua franca. Lingua franca, the world's most common language, okay? The lingua franca. I think in Indonesia, you also take English as a foreign language, the same in Taiwan. But to us, to the teachers, we need to take or think about English as a lingua franca, the world's most common language. Okay, this is Professor Jennifer Jenkins. Okay, talks about once English has become a lingua franca, the notion of standard English no longer exists. Okay, so don't insist on, oh, I need to teach my student standard English. Even in the UK, in different regions, they speak different Englishes. If you travel to Scotland, for example, you come to realize the English the Scottish people speak differ totally from the English spoken in the South, okay? And so this is the application, okay? So I think what I just want to say is the native speaker is no longer the referee. And because English has become a lingua franca, so horizontal communication, not vertical, has become the reality. Okay, so let's move from F to generative AI. Actually, I just emphasized the teaching part. Used to be the transmitter of facts. Now to facilitators of exploration. So I just start at the beginning. In terms of teaching, this is called paradigm shift. And AI should become more than just a tool. As Professor Jiati mentioned this morning, it's beyond tool, okay? It's beyond tool. Also, we need to redefine the role of teacher and the so-called the new literacy. Okay, just give you very simple comparison between traditional teaching and teaching driven by generative AI. The information flow used to be pushed like a broadcasting. Now it's pulling like conversation, okay? And the student agency used to be like a passenger in the car. Now the student is the driver. The instructor, the initiation used to be instructor led. Now is learner initiated. This is the so-called paradigm shift. Okay, and I will just skip this. If you do the so-called pedagogy, there are several important approaches that you can best use generative AI, like inquiry-based learning, collaborative learning. Professor Dia also mentioned this morning. So these are the 3 or 4 pitfalls. In other words, the traps we need to be aware and to warn our students. One is de-skilling. If our students use too much AI, will they lose their skill? The other is cognitive offloading. Too much information, cognitive offloading. And then automation bias or complacency. The last one is academic integrity, authorship, talking about plagiarism. These are the 4 pitfalls that any user of generative AI might fall into. I just use a quote by Picasso. Picasso says, and this is some encouragement to the teachers. Picasso says, good artists copy, great artists steal. So if you accuse your student of plagiarism, if your student are smart enough, he can quote Picasso, okay, in retort, okay, to your accusation. He said, Picasso says, great artists steal, okay? What does it mean? So AI, of course, only copies, but humans, they can do the transformation. Steal means they can do the transformation, okay? That's the difference between human and machine. I think you probably watched this movie before, but it talks, it was released well before the launch of generative AI, but it's more or less like a science fiction, okay, called Her. It's a love story between this engineer and the voice generated by machine. And then why English matters in this generative AI age? A lot of people, even a lot of university authorities, they begin to say the language department should no longer exist because it could be replaced by generative AI. But obviously, the argument should be just the opposite. Why English still matters? Let me start with 3 very simple questions. How many languages in the world today? How many? How many languages we have in the world today? By common consensus, how many? More than 7,000. Okay, existing language, more than 7,000 languages. The key point is how many languages used by ChatGPT, by generative AI, how many languages? You ask this question to ChatGPT, to Gemini, they refuse to answer you questions. They don't know. They will say they don't know. But usually our research is about 100 languages, okay, 95 plus, between 95 and 100 languages used by generative AI, including Bahasa Indonesia. But in terms of occupation, the rate, Bahasa probably 0 point something, okay, very tiny part, okay. And what are the 3 top languages used in ChatGPT or Gemini? the three top languages, you can make a good guess. English, majority, more than 85%. Then after English, Mandarin. After Mandarin is Spanish. Okay? So if you want to design multi-language courses or program for your school, English comes first, Mandarin second. After Mandarin, Spanish. I believe after Spanish could be Arabic. Okay, Arabic. So that's the reason why English still matters, because the majority of all the information searched by ChatGPT, by Gemini, are in English. Okay, I think if you want to make an experiment after this talk, you can do it by yourself. You raise the same question, one in English, one in Bahasa Indonesia. You come to realize the answer is totally different. Okay. Okay. So I think for today, we have to learn to read, change from learn to read to read to learn. In the past, we learned to read, but today we read to learn. And because we need to read to learn, English is a must. Okay. And then students need to be good at English because they need to understand the prompts. They need to check the accuracy. They need to be able to identify bias and errors. It happened to me pretty often because I use ChatGPT, use Gemini pretty often. As the two professors in the morning mentioned, ChatGPT would never argue with you. They are very, very polite. They always agree with you. That's the real problem. That's the real problem. I remember once in particular, feed ChatGPT the wrong information. And then ChatGPT did not make any correction. Then in my next prompt, I said, sorry, the mistake is so obvious. How come you did not detect the mistake? Oh, I'm sorry. I did not pay much attention to. I will do it now. That's ChatGPT, that's Gemini. So obviously you need to be able to train your student how to understand the prompt to check accuracy. Okay, and student need to, English for communication, especially the tone, the politeness, the empathy, the culture, the social meaning. And this is something that Professor Dia mentioned this morning. Okay, now back to the most crucial part I'm going to share with you. In any language teaching, you can include literature for your teaching, but don't emphasize its literature. Just emphasize you are dealing with texts. So you are teaching students textual power, the ability to deal with text. In my English class, in the beginning, I keep telling my students, in this class, what you are going to learn is to develop your textual power. What is meant by textual power? Your ability to read. This is very basic one. After that, your ability to do the interpretation. And the high end is the ability to do criticism. So critical power, eventually, that's what an English class will do at the end. You start with reading and then interpretation. Finally is criticism. Okay, it's criticism. Okay, and I mentioned the reason why, literature becomes almost absent in language classes because you are afraid of literature. You think literature is too difficult, too mysterious. But when you change your thinking from literature with a big L to literature with a small l. In other words, to equate literature with texts, the whole concept will be different, okay? And because we are talking about literature, I just want to share with you, in terms of language learning, there are two types of languages. One is called referential language. We, most of the time, teach our students referential language. What is meant? Language that just give facts. Water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. This is a desk, for example. This is referential. But we need to teach our students. Referential is important, but a major part should be representational language. Representational language, that means language that gives students a lot of room for imagination, for thinking. You can, for example, my love is like a red, red rose. You call your girlfriend like a red, red rose. Your girlfriend will be curious. What does he mean by I'm a red, red rose? This is called representational language. And the success of teaching has much to do with text selection. If the text contains a lot of representational language, then that means your teaching will become more, engaging. Okay, so this is referential language. Just give you some idea, the features. So referential language means communicate on only one level in terms of information being sought or given, or of a situation being handled, okay? Whereas representational language, okay, this is some feature of representational, okay? Representational engagement. And my point is, only when your students' imagination is engaged can learning become effective. Okay, okay. Because time is almost up, I just use this for you to think about. It's a famous book by a Nobel Prize winner, Daniel Kahneman, called Thinking Fast and Slow. He has two systems thinking, system 1 and system 2. You can think about referential and representation as system 1 and system 2, just for you to make some kind of comparison. And then I just give this, these are some classroom practice, okay? So if you use referential language, that means you just inform the student, okay? If you use representation, that means you engage, you remember Bloom's pyramid of taxonomy. At the bottom is remembering, at the end is criticism, creation, okay? Okay, so only when student imagination is engaged can learning become effective and delightful. So aside from the traditional 4 language skills, we need to develop the 5th skill. Okay, so language class is designed to develop student 5th skill. The 5th skill is called thinking with English or thinking in English, or you can call it critical thinking, especially in the age of artificial intelligence. Critical thinking is very, very important. So we accept the AI tools that's informing, so we can focus on our true purpose as a teacher, that's engaging. Okay, so I think this is something for you to think about. What is the human advantage? As I said, AI hasn't gained consciousness yet. So we human beings have our, advantage over AI. Okay, this is a book by, Fareed Zakaria called "In Defense of Liberal Education." I mention this because the majority in this room are humanities teachers. Don't lose your heart. Don't lose your heart. Okay. And then this is the last slide. If you still have any doubt about what AI can do with education, you can just read the book, Release I think just last year, okay, by, Khan Academy, the founder, Samar Khan, okay? And I don't think you would doubt his integrity or his devotion to education. And he, in the book, keep encouraging all the teachers, no matter in science and in humanities, to use AI as much as possible. So this could be the end of my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Chen, for enlightening presentation. So some of the key takeaways from your presentation I would suggest is the stressing of literature as a methodology and how AI as a conscious entity or becoming a conscious entity, we still have the upper hand of an affective aspect that we as humans have feeling more than AI. And it's interesting to learn about the history about how foreigners learn English through curse words. And probably we might come to a point where foreigners learn Javanese words through curse words because we Javanese have multiple curse words and we have a vastly rich repertoire of curse words. So thank you, Professor Chen. And now for the second session. And as I mentioned, if some of you have questions for Professor Chen, let's keep it at the end of the second session. Now I would like to invite Miss Hui Chen to sit here or here. It's really up to you. And for the second talk by Mr. Stokes, who I don't think whether has he joined the Zoom yet? Okay, and we are going to play out a video from him, and his talk will be about demystifying AI, lessons from the past and practical ideas for today's classroom. And a little bit of introduction about Andrew Stokes. He is the founder of and publisher at Clarity English. He is a Cambridge graduate in modern languages and a qualified teacher. He has taught English in his native United Kingdom, as well as for the Ministries of Education in Spain and Malaysia, and for the British Council in East Asia. He is also a regular contributor to the educational press and an invited speaker at international events. And in Clarity, specializes online programs for English language teaching and has users in 134 countries. And for the video, I hope it's ready. And do enjoy the video, and I hope there won't be any technical glitch yet.
Come off intro, video, my part, video, my part. Sure.
Hello, and thank you so much for attending. Hello, and thank you so much for attending today. I'm Andrew Stokes, a founder of Clarity, and I'm supposed to be with you, but for family reasons, I had to fly back to the UK suddenly. So instead, we're going to do this session in 3 modes. I'm going to talk to you on video, like this. Puyi, Clarity's managing director, is going to talk to you live, and at the end, I'll be on the video link to answer questions along with Puyi. Okay, our topic today is one which is everywhere, which has probably touched your personal life, and which has certainly had and will continue to have an impact on your professional life as a teacher. The topic is, of course, artificial intelligence, AI. Puyi and I are here to give our input as a teacher in my case and as a publisher in Puyi's case. I hope we can provide some useful insights. And as we talk, if any questions occur to you, please note them down, and we'll look forward to trying to answer them at the end. In the meantime, let me hand over to Puyi to get started.
Okay. Can you go to the slide, please? Okay. So, hello everyone, I'm Puyi. Thank you, Andrew. I'm going to start by asking you questions with three possible answers. It's all about AI. So, I want you to think about AI right now. Okay? Close your eye if you want to, and think about AI and your work. Now, listen to these three descriptions of your feelings. Number one, I feel confident and excited about using AI with my student. Number two, AI seems interesting, but I'm not sure how to approach it. Number three, it's overwhelming. I just don't know how AI is going to affect my job. Okay, let's see them written down. Okay, which one is closer to your feeling? Put up your hand if it is number one. Okay. Put up your hands if it is number two. Okay, number three. Okay, that's a very interesting finding, and we are going to come back to it later. One reason why I find it so interesting is that, it's closely echo what's happening in English language teaching when computer was first introduced in 1990s. For our mini history lesson, let's go back to Andrew, who was there at the time.
It was in the early 1990s that we saw the very first computers in the language classroom, and this is what they looked like. There is your top of the range Apple computer on the left with its floppy disk drives, and your PC on the right. Well, they look almost identical, don't they? Of course, even when I was in secondary school at the end of the 1970s, we'd had a computer in the maths classroom. But the 1990s was the first time that we were beginning to see them used for language teaching. In the early 90s, a language school would typically have one or maybe two computers in the library. At that time, I was teaching at the British Council in Penang in Malaysia, and we were lucky enough to have three in the library, and they were always busy. Even though there weren't many computers in those days, and the programs on them were primitive at best, gap fill exercises, multiple choice, simple games, it was still clear that computers were the coming thing, and not just in education. It was clear that they were going to be used for everything from desktop publishing to storing recipes, to playing movies and songs, to office work. But of course, they were also going to be important in English language teaching. The only problem was nobody was quite sure how. And just as it was with computers in the mid-90s, so it is today with AI. Nobody quite knows how. So, back in 1992, we tried to find out how computers were going to work in English teaching. I was an English teacher and I had a friend who was a programmer. We decided to team up to publish software for ELT. But the key to this concept would be to answer that question. How were computers going to be important in English teaching? Now, we were determined that our programs would not be technology driven. They would be driven by the teaching. It was the pedagogy that would be enabled by the capabilities of the technology. In other words, our view was that any effective use of computers in our field has to be a balance of teaching and technology. You have to know why you're doing it from the teaching and learning perspective. And you also have to know what the technology is capable of and to marry up those two variables. So, how do you know that? Well, the very first thing we did was a simple exercise to look at where the computer adds value to the teaching and learning. And just as importantly, where it doesn't add value. So we made a grid like this. Now, if you look at that, I'm sure you can have a pretty good idea about how to fill in those two columns. So let's have a quick look. So we'll start by looking at these things, which are very much the preserve of the teacher and which the computer can't do and can't replace the teacher in doing. For examples, leading real communication and interaction. That's the preserve of a human, not a machine. Motivating, encouraging, managing the class. Anything with any kind of emotional or psychological aspect to it is the preserve of the teacher. Diagnosing misunderstandings and adjusting those misunderstandings on the spot. In other words, reacting to students in a classroom situation. And the final example we have here is designing and adapting tasks to learners and to the context that those specific learners are in. So this is all things that the teacher does, where the computer can't replace the teacher. So where does the computer add value? Well, these are all things that the computer actually does better than the teacher. Firstly, giving controlled grammar and vocabulary practice. And the computer can do that at any time of the day or night, at school or at home. Secondly, providing instant, consistent, right-wrong feedback, saving time and marking. So what we're talking about here is objective questions. Is this grammar correct or is it wrong? Rather than grading in a subjective way, like marking essays. Thirdly, storing and delivering texts, audio, and simple videos that the student can replay. A window on the world. When I say a window on the world, I mean that with the internet, for the first time, students could access a huge variety of authentic texts. And of course, the computer's very good at doing some of the boring admin tasks, such as recording scores and progress automatically. Now, it seems to me that 35 years on, we're in a very similar situation. We have this exciting brand new technology, artificial intelligence. Then it was desktop computers, now it's AI. Then teachers were concerned or even overwhelmed by the impact that computers were going to have on their professional lives. Now, teachers are concerned or even overwhelmed by AI. So I think this exact same exercise is very valuable to do again. Over to you, Puyi.
Thank you, Andrew. So now I'd like you to partner up with the teacher sitting next to you and draw a grid like this. Okay. So on the left side is the role of the teacher. On the right side is the role of the AI. Okay, so actually on the right side is to check, is to think about where the areas that teacher performs much better than the AI, something that the teacher cannot be replaced. Okay, and on the other side, we are looking at area where AI is over significant advantage over teachers. Great. Okay, let's get started by one idea on board. Okay. course management and classroom management. Okay, we can ask the AI to create lesson plans for us, but they cannot control the class like you. You are teaching in the class and you can see the face of the students. Do they feel bored? How do they feel? Do they wonder what's happening? Right. Okay. So this is something teacher can do, but not AI. So this the other side, grading, speaking, and writing. We know AI right now can grade passage, writing, or speaking in really a quick time, in a second. So this is something they can make it very efficient if you have a widely tuned AI, I have to say. Okay. And so now I want you to partner up with the teacher sitting next to you and think about it. Try to come up with at least 3 ideas. Okay. I know the previous Professor Dia, Dr. Chan, Professor Jati, they already share a lot of ideas with you. So I think this is a very easy, quite easy questions for you. So I will give you less than 1 minute, okay? And we'll come back to it.
You want to engage with the audience to ask?
Yeah, I will.
Okay. I'm gonna move the mic and then.
Oh, okay. Do you help me with the mic?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I can see a lot of good discussion here. That's great. Thank you. And who want to start by sharing anything that you think teachers is much better than AI? Yeah. Yes, please.
Should I stand up?
Yeah.
I think just to respect others. We have a brief discussion. My name is Akil Abdurrahim, and this one is Hamida. I call her Gomez. We have 3 things. The first one is very simple from our previous discussion. Teacher can disagree. AI always agree. The second one is the teacher can be the role model, dealing with the morality. AI cannot be the role model, only the cognitive source of information, something like that. The third one, teacher can give physical hugs that builds emotional relation, and AI, I don't know, can AI hug? I don't know. No, virtually, no, I don't know. Encouragement, words of encouragement, but not a physical hug. Thank you.
Yes.
That's all.
Yes, thank you. Even in the future, there is robot. You still can't feel a human touch, right?
Okay. Okay. I'm Tika. As a teacher from SMA N 1 Kota Malang, I just want to add his opinions. The role of the teacher versus the role of AI. I think the first is that emotional support. This is because more humanized than the AI. And the second one, teacher also equipped with cultural cognitives, understand the cultural content than the AI itself. And then feedback, I think it's more personal teacher comparing to the AI. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a very good point. Anyone want to share? Anyone want to share? AI is doing a better job than human, probably. Okay. Okay, let me share some of the few points. Actually, I think in this morning or from a talk from Dr. Chen, they already share a lot of idea, but I will just quickly. It didn't work. This one. Okay. So the teachers that talk about human interaction and motivation, right? Learning is really an emotional process. So AI cannot give a student a look of engagement, right? A look of like encouragement. So this is something why teachers is still in charge, right? And also creating opportunity for communications, right? Even right now, as we can see what Dr. Jati's doing, he's like talking to the AI instantly, but it's still the context is different, right? Talking to AI from talking to a real person. So this is something that we it's different, okay? And also, how about technical mentorship? Okay, so I think one thing is perhaps this is the most important part. You teacher are the guide. You help learners navigate these two critically. About critical thinking, teaching them to spot the AI hallucination. Okay, this is something I think Dr. Chen and Dr. Jati have mentioned this morning as well. Okay, and on the other side, roles of AI, the AI can help us to simplify text, creating exercise, lots of tests, all of this, material generations, or even support independent learning. And the last bit is they can help us to save time. And ultimately, AI is about reclaiming your schedule. If we ask the AI as a tool to help us to do repetitive work, then you will you can spend more time with your student in a quality time. Okay, so if we look at this table, generally speaking, the teacher is important on a macro level. Okay. Essentially, the teacher has overall responsibility for all aspects of teaching and learning. Again, generally, the strength of AI is performing specific tasks on a micro level. Now, okay, if we take one of these tasks, examine them and measure them with reference of this grid, this concept, should the teacher do the task or will the AI do a better job? Is it the role of the AI or the role of the teacher? This gives us a clear defined rationale for when and why we want to use AI. This in turn will help us to feel more confidence and much less overwhelmed with it. Okay, what we talk about right now is all theory. What about putting them into practice? I do now is to look at some AI-enabled activity we at Clarity has developed with this concept in mind. We are going to look at 3 activities or use of AI, and Andrew is going to start off with the first one.
Okay, let's talk about speaking tests. Jump back to my days as a young teacher, just 25 years old, at the British Council in Penang. At the start of every term, there was an intake of new students, and each one of those new students had to do a speaking test, which lasted maybe 10 or 15 minutes. It's easy to see why this tedious job was given to the most junior teacher, me, because nobody else wanted to do it. And it's also very easy to see the problems that this system caused. Firstly, it was very time consuming. So with a 10 to 15 minute test, you could only get through 4 or maybe 5 students in an hour. That meant that it was, this is the second point, that meant it was quite expensive for the school. So the test itself was free, the students didn't pay, but of course the school had to pay the teacher time and the admin time. Thirdly, there were no proper test criteria. So what was the examiner actually measuring? There were no standardized questions. It was basically a chat and just one teacher's impression of the student's level. Fourthly, there was no benchmarking, no reference points. Was the student's performance measured against the CEFR, for example, or the IELTS scale? Actually, it was just a subjective notion of the level of each class taught at the school and how the student measured up against those levels. In other words, I, or whoever else was doing it, would just think to themselves, I'm pretty sure that this person is lower intermediate. Shall I put them in lower intermediate class 1, 2, or 3? It's not very scientific, is it? And finally, the bias factor. This is point 5. So what happens if a student comes in and you like them and want them to have them in your class, or you don't like them and actually don't want to have them in your class? We can't rule out the possibility of subconsciously or even consciously adjusting the grade up or down a bit. So, not a very satisfactory system. Let's turn instead to an alternative approach. Suppose this test could be conducted by AI. First of all, we have to ask ourselves, can the AI do it? Well, we know that some important testing bodies use AI for exactly this purpose. For example, Cambridge Assessment uses it in LinguaSkill. Pearson Test of English, PTE, uses AI. Duolingo, of course. So this is all positive and suggests that the market, if you like, which really means teachers, accepts that it can work. But of course, we can also calibrate AI marking against human markers. And a lot has been written about this, but suffice it to say that for the kind of placement test that we're talking about here, we can accept that AI can perform as well as human markers with the same kind of variability as human markers. And the research proves it. So if we accept that AI can do the job, would AI solve the problems, the 5 problems that I identified earlier? Well, let's have a look at these specific issues. So the first issue is time consuming. With the AI, with an AI test, you can put 50 or 100 students into a room or even have them do it at home. And they can all do the computer-based test at the same time. At the end of the test, you have each student's score safely recorded. So before, under the old system, 50 students would have taken about 12 hours. Now it takes about half an hour or maybe 45 minutes. So that problem is solved. Problem 2, the expense. Okay, this one is less sure. I mean, previously you had to pay the costs of the teacher and the costs of the admin. You're still going to have to pay for a test. So we'd need to find a test which falls within the budget allocated for this particular process. So let's say that one is unknown. Thirdly, no proper test criteria. Now this is where the AI test really scores. A well-designed test has standardized items. So unlike in the old system, where the teacher would be chatting and therefore would come up with different questions for each student, with the AI test, each student goes through the same questions or parallel questions. And of course, this makes it much fairer than the human test that we want to replace. And each element of a student's performance is measured against criteria generated from millions of data points. In other words, all the other students, all the other test takers who've been through that AI test before. So that means that we can measure accuracy, fluency, grammar, vocab, coherence and cohesion with an exactness and a detail that no human brain can get close to. So unlike my efforts in Penang, we have an objective, reliable, valid test. So we can say that this problem is solved. Number 4 was no benchmarking. So to give you an example, an AI test I've been involved with, the dynamic speaking test, is benchmarked against the CEFR and other tests. So let's say that your classes at school are also CEFR referenced, which of course is very common. Then based on the test scores, it's easy to sort students into their correct classes based on their CEFR level. And to be more granular, exactly where within that CEFR level they are, because CEFR levels are, of course, quite broad. So that problem is solved. And finally, the human factor. So naturally with AI, bias doesn't apply at all. The AI doesn't care what the student looks like, doesn't care how pleasant or unpleasant they are, what color, race, or religion they are, and so on. It's completely impartial. It doesn't even register. So there's no conscious or unconscious bias to affect the results. So that problem also is solved. Now, let's have a look at a sample certificate from the dynamic speaking test, which as I say, I've been involved with, and the detail it provides to both students and teachers. And of course, this also means that the student has a nice certificate to take away with them. So I don't know whether how clearly you can see this, but at the top, you've got the student's name, the test date, and the CFR level, you can see quite big there, is a B1. And above the CFR level, you can see there's a long bar. So it shows where on the CFR scale that student is. And as I mentioned before, you can do it in a more granular way than simply the bare level, the B1, B2, C1, and so on. And there's a score there which is 51, which is the relative numeric, which shows us that that student is pretty much right in the middle of B1. Then in the box below the CFR level, there is a relative strength kind of spidergram. So it shows you for each aspect of speaking, the strengths or relative weaknesses of that student. So we can see that this student, for example, is very fluent. The fluency part of the graph is right out at the edge, but is less good at grammar and vocabulary, and pronunciation and task achievement are in the middle there. Okay, so taking a step back again, given the task, which is to place students according to their speaking ability, I'm confident that we can make a judgment that AI does a better job, in fact, a much better job than a human. It meets 4 out of those 5 criteria, with the other one just being an unknown. Take the situation of a different kind of test, perhaps a higher stakes test, and we may have a different view. But in this case, we can be sure that the AI is an effective and appropriate tool for teachers to choose to use. I'll repeat the word tool. It's an appropriate tool for teachers to choose to use. And of course, this is the main point. The AI is simply a tool which a teacher can choose to use or deploy for any given task or not. And this is very similar to the computer situation that I described 35 years ago. Teachers didn't really have to worry as much as they did then. because the computer turned out to be just a tool that teachers can choose to deploy or not. Now, let's see if we can identify a couple more practical ways in which we might choose to use AI as a tool right now. And when I say right now, I actually mean in your next lesson. Puyi?
Okay, thank you, Andrew. So Andrew has shared with us about how to use AI with a speaking test, and we can see what Andrew explained is really sophisticated, and actually we can also apply AI in writing as well. But I don't want to talk about this right now because it's quite similar to what we did for speaking tests. But before I move on to the second activity that we want to share with you, I just want to point out a point because when I'm talking to different teachers these few days in Surabaya, I noticed that there may not be have a practice of placement. The student in the right class, right, in Indonesia. So I think there are lots of research to support this. A proper placement will give you a more effective classroom teaching. So I think this is an idea you can explore in your school. And we do have very good tools to do this, not just speaking tests, but also a placement test for listening, reading, and language element. But this is not a topic of today, so we can talk about this afterward. If you're interested, just let me know. Okay, so let's go to the second activity. I want to move into reading this time. So how to use AI for teaching reading. Okay, let's see. Okay, oops. Okay, how can AI help with reading? So if you want to improve reading with your students and so happen you are using active reading, okay, there's a program with 6 level. Every level got 10 units, and this is one of the unit of pre-intermediate level, struck by lightning. So the reading focus of these unit is understanding suffixes, text type, newspaper article. So that's the overview, as you can see on the screen. So there are lots of activity. So the learner will watch video introductions, doing some exercise, read article, and so on. So they will focus on the suffix, okay, in the text. So actually, after you go through the exercise properly with the student in your classroom, you may want the student, because it's reading, right? You want your student to have more text, okay? You want them to read more parallel text in the classroom as a homework, or you want it as a self-learning material. Then what should you do? What can you do with AI? And properly, what you can do is as a teacher, you can write it yourself, definitely, right? Even the topic is about weather, you can do it yourself, but it's too time consuming. So you can probably go to Google to search similar text. But the problem is the text may be a bit difficult, okay, for your student. It's not at the right level. So what you do, if you got AI with you, why don't you want to use it if it's so convenient, right? So what you can do is put a prompt like something like this. Write 5 tests for learner of English level as follow. The topic, the weather, language level, probably CEFL B1, word count, and vocabulary, including words with prefix, okay? Give them a very specific instructions. So within a second or so, AI, whatever AI you use, Gemini, ChatGPT, you will have your 5 texts right away. Okay. So wait a minute. There are wording of warning here. I should say that this is not really the best way to write a poem. It's a convenient way to tabulate the ideas here. And also this is kind of a task. When AI do it, is quite primitive, okay? It can provide tests at one level or one length, okay? However, we see it as a problem that will disappear when AI is getting more sophisticated, and it doesn't really undermine this activity, okay? Now, go further. If you feel confidence with your students, you could actually teach them how to write a poem in AI to generate useful parallel tests for their for further study. But in our experience, I find that the test that I get from AI is generally on the right length, and the level is okay. 90% of the vocabulary is about right. But most of the time, the story may not be very interesting, and it's quite formulaic, and sometimes it's obvious to me that it is or AI generated, okay? But it doesn't really matter because the primary objective is for language learning, okay? Not entertainment, okay? And other alternative that we mentioned earlier is if you can find any interesting article about weather, for example, about extreme weather, you can actually put them into AI to ask them to revise it to the right level of your students, okay? And in this way, you can have this for your student easily, okay? And why is it a useful function? Because actually there are infinity of texts in the internet right now, but 99.9% of it is aimed at native speakers. Okay, so therefore it's quite useless for low-level learner. It's just too difficult for them, but definitely AI can help in this area. Okay, so I think this is the idea activity we want to share with you. The second one, okay, what comes third, Andrew?
The third and final example, I've chosen grammar and vocabulary. This example is for more motivated and perhaps more sophisticated language learners, including everyone in this room, I imagine. This is something I use AI for a lot in my personal language learning, and I find it extremely useful. Now, let's jump back again to my time in Penang. And this is an authentic sentence that I still remember reading in my bank book when I was when I first opened my bank account there all those years ago. So let me read out the sentence in Bahasa Malaysia. Simpan buku bank Anda dalam laci yang berkunci atau terkunci. Okay, berkunci, I get it. It's a passive, it's a locked drawer. But why terkunci? It didn't seem to make any sense to me. I mean, terkunci is to do something accidental. So how can you choose to keep a book in an accidentally locked drawer? I couldn't understand it. And for some weird reason, I couldn't forget it either. So all these years later, I decided to ask the AI. Now, the answer I got was fascinating and thought-provoking, to me at any rate. And that's what's important, because I'm the language learner. It said, and I paraphrase, so as long as the drawer's locked, why does anyone care how it got locked? This is a cultural thing. Westerners like you are so obsessed with rules, with having everything black and white. East Asians are much more comfortable with shades of grey. Now, I'll stress again that the AI is not always correct. You may agree or disagree. But in a case like this, I'll go out on a limb and suggest that it doesn't much matter whether it's correct or incorrect. It's interesting, stimulating, and motivating to language learners. So let's look at an example in English. I mean, maybe, for example, you're confused about the difference between the words cause and reason. You could ask the AI in your own language, apakah perbezaan di antara reason dan cause? Give it a go. It's really interesting. And of course, this is another function that you can teach to your students to help them become more independent and self-reliant in their language learning.
Thank you, Andrew. So a year or 2 years ago, I went to the BET conference. So the BET conference is an educational technological organization. So I attended the talk, and there is a man who is from Google or Microsoft. He shared ideas that he lists a load of previous tech, okay, like language lab, computer, internet, LMS, learning management system, and so on. He said that all previous tech innovation seems to be revolutionary, but actually they're not, okay? And afterward, he said, he thinks AI is the game changer. AI is different, okay? So actually, after hearing all the talks we have today, what do you think? Do you agree with him or disagree with him? Is it really the game changer? Or perhaps what we think right now is people have been learning language for thousands of years, okay? We have been learning it for many years. And actually, there is no revolutionary approach that's going to dramatically change the progress of learning, okay? But these all these tools are a lot of small gains that can facilitate our learning, can facilitate what we are going to do with language teaching. Okay, that can make language teaching more effectively and efficiently. Okay. What we want to say is there is no need to feel overwhelmed. The teacher, everyone sitting here, you all are still in charge, okay? And we think AI is a brand new tool for you. Now, homework time. Try out at least one of these exercises Andrew and I share with you today. Either if you want to try out the speaking test with the students, please contact Avida. She can set up a speaking test for you. And if not, you can try out the vocabulary or the reading activity. And please give us feedback if you want to. Here is our contact, Andrew and I, the contact of us. Okay. Okay, now let's see if we can get Andrew back in. Actually, he is in the room with us through Zoom all the time. And we can both take questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bui. So, Andrew, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Okay, Andrew, we're going to enter a Q&A session. Do you want to say something beforehand, or do you want to receive questions directly?
I think I've said pretty much what I want to say. I'd like to say thank you to Pui for stepping in at the last minute. And I just reiterate the focus, I think, of our talk is that AI is revolutionary, but only in the way that previous technologies have been revolutionary. So the language lab changed things, learning management systems changed things, the computer itself changed things massively. Learning a language now in 2026 is completely different from learning a language in 1986, for example. You have so many more resources to use. But at the end of the day, all of these things are just things that can enhance the way in which we help our students to learn English. So, and I think that is the most important way of looking at AI. How can it's not this huge force for change. But it is a very important force for change in specific areas.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. So it's a revolutionary tool for every teacher here and elsewhere in the world. Now I open up the floor for question and answer. And due to time limitation, I'm going to limit only 3 questions, if that's okay. And please raise your hand if you have question, comment, or anything to say in response to what our speakers have delivered. Anyone? Bu Yuni.
Thank you so much for insightful presentations, Prof. Chance, Mr. Andrew Stokes. I was going to say Andrew Hunt, and then Dr. Pui. So regarding the AI, I said my answer was it's exciting, but I'm not sure how to do with it because when we combine it, when we're asking AI to help us with our teaching materials, that's doable, feasible. However, now when it comes to the students using AI for their answers, or because they know the tools, so how do we? Prof. Chen's mentioned about the critical thinking. So how do we maintain and entice our students' critical thinking into our teaching, particularly when now everything AI can answer for us or provide the answer for the students. So this is a bit challenging for us, the teachers or lecturers in this case. So what are your do's and don'ts, tips regarding this issue? Thank you.
Thank you, Bu Yuni. Anybody else would like to add to that question or follow along the line? Can be a different line as well. Okay.
Thank you for the chance. My name is Akil Abdurrahim. I'm sorry for asking a lot of questions. I'm currently writing my postdoctoral proposal, so I need a lot of insights. My topic, I try to narrow it down. It's a policy of AI framework specific in classroom. It's the traffic light. So I would like to brief this a little bit. So the framework is based on right traffic lights. It's red. You cannot do AI at all. It's like IELTS test or final test. Yellow you can use with caution. Green is you can allow AI is allowed during the task. Dr. Gumiwang Jati already provide insights on product. Product can use AI, but for competences you cannot use AI for that. I'm interested in the concept of using the literature methodology. I would like to consider that points from the presentation of Professor Chen to be a consideration for this benchmarking for my framework during AI policing. And any insights from Mr. Andrew and Mrs. Chan will be valuable insights. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm gonna let the speakers answer first. The first question from Bu Yuni about how to cultivate critical thinking in the midst of AI phenomena, and what are the do's and don'ts for using AI and cultivating critical thinking. Prof. Chen?
To answer your question in a very simple manner, actually, I just share with you what I did with my student when ChatGPT was launched in a master level class. Okay, I gave each student 2 or 3 questions, the so-called essay questions. Then I ask, okay, based upon the question I gave to you, you use your own language to ask question to ChatGPT. The first thing is you paste the answer you obtain from ChatGPT. Okay, this is the first thing. The second thing is you criticize the answer from ChatGPT. In this manner, I try to train the student, how to develop their critical thinking. So my homework exercise is more or less like that. And another exercise is I just give student just a topic, and they have to come up with their prompt, their questions. And I read the student questions to see whether they can solicit good answer from ChatGPT or not. To be honest, this afternoon I show you a very short text called 40 Love. The first time I tried ChatGPT with 40 Love, you would laugh to death. ChatGPT is zero intelligence. Zero intelligence. I just did not know what ChatGPT tried to tell me with that texts. Okay. Then I tried the second time. I said, I was quite surprised by you being so stupid. Okay. I said to ChatGPT, obviously, this is a poem by a certain author. Then I key in the author's name. Oh, the second time turned out to be perfect. Very interpretive, very analytical, because he knows the name of the author. He could do the search, could collect the data and combine together. So today I have to tell you, even AI, they can do interpretation, they can do analysis, okay, except AI doesn't have consciousness, and this makes all the difference between a human and AI. So that could be my, a short question to you. Using literature as the methodology, this is something I think for any literature measure, you have to be aware. Today, not just in Indonesia, in Taiwan too, not many students will study literature. When I was a student, if you want to study English, the best student go for literature, the best, okay? The second best go for linguistics. And then the rest go for language teaching. So there was a time when I was the chairman or the dean of the faculty. Every year we would hire teachers, language teachers, whatever. But if that language teacher doesn't happen to be in literature or in linguistics, we decide not to hire. Okay, we think language teaching, anybody can do that. Anybody can do language teaching. Perhaps this is my bias, okay? But today, if you still remain aloof like that, you are going to lose all the students. Nobody will sit in your class. Eventually, you have no student. That means you will get no job, okay? So today, you have to think about how to motivate students to study literature. Actually, I didn't show to you some slides I prepared before. Think about Alibaba, Ma Yun, right? The founder. Think about Alibaba. What was his measure? Alibaba. English. I can provide you with like handfuls of good examples. All the very successful business people, they measure in humanities, not necessarily in English. Because literature, humanity provide insights. If you ask me what is meant by literature, just one key word, literature means possibilities. That's literature. So as a student of literature, they are immerse themselves in all types of possibilities, because literature creates all types of possibilities. So when they become the leader, they encounter the crisis, they can easily make the decision. So literature has much to do with leadership, with decision making, with a good leader. So how to encourage students? You have to take literature as a methodology, not for content, because for content course, literature is very intimidating. That will be my brief answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Chen. And from Andrew, about the two questions, the do's and don'ts, tips and tricks, and about literature as well. The importance of literature as a methodology in AI.
Okay, I think I'd start by saying that I think the first question we're a little bit worried about, are the students using the AI in an ethical and genuinely useful way, or are they just using it to make their life easier? So let's start by accepting that the AI is here to stay. We can't go back in time. The AI is here. And so are we going to take the position, which some schools take, that students aren't allowed to use AI? Or are we going to take the position that we know that within the teaching time that we have available for students, we can't do the job. You know, we can't teach the students English within the classroom time that we've got. And so we need to enable the students to become effective, independent learners. And if we take that path, we can then accept that AI can help students to become independent learners in some of the ways that we looked at in the talk. So we looked at one way in which it can help them with their reading. We looked at one way in which it can help them with perhaps grammar or cultural questions or cultural doubts that they might have. But how do we do that? How do we enable them to become independent learners and to take advantage of AI in this way? So, for example, we need to help them write prompts. So in Puyi's example, we tabulated what we wanted in terms of texts. So we put a little table and we put, we want a text about weather, we want about 400 words, we want it at B2 level, and we want to include prefixes and suffixes. But actually, as Puyi said, this is not a good way of writing a prompt. This is not how you're going to get the best out of the AI. So how do you write a prompt? Well, why not just ask Gemini? So for the information that you want, you can put in that little table and you can say to Gemini, is this the best way of asking a prompt? And Gemini will tell you, no, it isn't, because AI doesn't work that way. AI doesn't work in, it doesn't respond well to tables. AI responds well to natural language. So then the student can say to the AI, okay, well, can you give me an example of how I can write an effective prompt, which it then will. So by doing this, and because, you know, students are not going to get this on their own. So what I'm arguing is that as part of the way that we teach learners to learn, we can enable them to use the AI effectively. So part of what we're doing should be helping them to write prompts. Then, of course, students have to know that what comes out at the other end is not necessarily reliable. AI makes mistakes. As we know, AI gets things wrong. Students need to know that. And so how do students check? Dr. Chen just came up with a good example of how we can enable our students to question the AI and to verify the information that the AI has produced by looking at different sources. So by putting all this together, we can help learners become more effective by giving them additional tools that will benefit the way they think about independent learning and also the way they execute independent learning. So if we move on to the question of cheating, I mean, students always have cheated, students always will cheat. And students know when they're cheating, right? They know they're not supposed to cheat and they know when they're cheating. But you know, my personal view is that most students understand that by cheating, ultimately, they're only cheating themselves. So if we can give guidelines along the lines that our colleague suggested, which is a red, yellow, and a traffic light system, a red, yellow, and green traffic light system, then we can end up in a position where if students know that the students are clear when it is appropriate to use AI and when it is inappropriate, just as for the last 25 years, students have been aware of when it's appropriate to use material or how to use materials from the internet, when it's appropriate and when it's plagiarism. So I think as long as, again, as part of our responsibility to enable students to become effective independent learners, we need to teach them how they can use AI ethically within their work and when they cross a red line in exactly the same way that we do with plagiarism. I hope that's useful.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. I hope that also adds another valuable insight by the second question. So, due to very time-limited quota that we have right now, so that closes up our second session for today, second keynote session. So, round of applause for our speakers here and on Zoom. Andrew Stokes, thank you very much, Andrew, for joining us through Zoom. And thank you, Professor Chen and Puyi. Are there some messages? No? Okay. And thank you, Andrew, and looking forward to see you on site next time. And thank you very much to our participants who have joined today. We are going to move on to the next session, and I'll pass it back to MC. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, our incredible speakers, Professor Yui Chen and also Ms. Pui Chen, and also exceptional moderator today, Mr. Alexi. What a truly insightful, engaging discussion. We extend our sincere gratitude to all of our keynote speakers for their inspiring and informative presentation, and to our moderator for the excellent facilitation. Please give applause once again. May this session inspire us to embrace innovation, integrate technology wisely, and continue shaping English language education with both intelligence and humanity, so that we can empower learners and create meaningful impact in classrooms around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, after gaining so many great insights from our amazing speakers, it would be a waste if we not practice it on ourselves. So now it's time for the workshop session, where we can directly apply what we have learned and deepen our understanding through hands-on experience. And participants are kindly reminded to prepare their laptops, as this session will be highly interactive. The first workshop session will be led by Dr. Gumawang Jati, and the second session will be led by the team from Clarity English. We kindly invite Dr. Gumawang Jati once again, and also Ms. Pui Chen from the Clarity English to please come forward.
Okay. Afternoon, everyone. Tired? Sleepy? Sama. Okay, we're going to do a mini workshop. It's going to be very quick, but hopefully that will give you some ideas. I plan to have to introduce you two things, but then I changed my mind. I'll give you 5. Yeah, well, we stay here and come back tomorrow. Okay, now what I want you to do is follow my instruction. I want you to draw a cat. Give you 30 seconds. In your mind, draw a cat. Okay, done? Good. Second question or instruction. I want you to draw a house in your mind. Done? Cepat banget. Share with your friend. Yeah, tell your friend. Tell your friend. Next to you, tell to your friends what house that you have in mind. Sekarang ayo workshop. Cerita rumahnya yang dibayangkan kayak apa gitu loh. It's a mental drawing. Sudah? Ya, oke, sudah ya? Ya. I want you to draw something like that. Kok kelewat? Belum. This one. What's my instruction? Draw a house. That's the same thing when you ask Gen AI with the instruction, draw a house, beda semua. Yeah, your AI, even though you use ChatGPT and then another ones use the same thing, ChatGPT, when you give instruction, draw a house, they will draw different houses, any houses. It's not the house that you want. That's the same with your student. When they said, write me an essay about global warming. Jadi nggak essaynya? Ya, jadi. Is that the essay that you want? Okay, it depends. Is that the essay that your students wants to write? Okay, that's the picture of AI or real picture. Nah, ini promptingnya rahasia. So prompting is really important right now. This one, AI or real? AI. Draw me Bandung, very beautiful. Bandung, early sunrise around 5 o'clock in the morning, good air and so on and so on. That's the picture. That mosque is there. The building, they're all like that there. Then I said, draw Braga Street. That's really popular in Bandung. Then that's the picture. That's the, yeah, not exactly because this is the AI. Yeah, let's see the reality. Nah, this is the reality. So when you see the Tangkuban Perahu and you see the city, the street, that's what I face every morning in Bandung. That's AI. Looks perfect, look nice, everything is there. But in reality, it's not the same. When you ask your students to write an essay, it's not realistic. It's too good to be true. with all of the argument, with all of the vocabulary, with all of the structure. And you say, wow, this is good, but that's not human. Yeah. So that's the world that we live now. We live in a digital with the AI, and then we live in our real world. Okay. The art of prompting. So the prompt on the questions that need critical thinking and so on, it's should be specific. Prompting is not about being smart. It's about being clear what you want. If you don't know what you want, then ya AI-nya terus ngawur. Yeah, so you have to be exact in that. Clear thinking. Earlier I said when a slow learner, they don't have that clear concept, they don't have that clear thinking yet, then they use AI, maybe it's not wise. Think about that. Yeah. You have to have a clear prompt and then will be a better output on that. Is the output reality? Is the output reality when we look at the picture? No, it's not reality. Everything is there. The structure is very good. The maze is there. The building is there, and so on and so on. But it's not reality. That's why we have to have the ability to analyze the text, to analyze the picture, to analyze the song, because a lot of now AI can write a song. Yeah, we have to be able to analyze that. Is that human or is that AI? Yeah, that's. Now, we're going to talk about prompting. Prompting is designing. Then you got the answer from the AI. Then we have to refine. Makanya kalau yang bahasa Inggrisnya belum bagus banget, agak susah. Need a help from you. Maybe you have to do it together. Maybe you have to do it inside the class. Tapi yang pasti, they need refining. The how is still going on. A lot of research is there, and I want you to do research with your class. Then you will find out how to do it. Karena setiap tempat pasti berbeda. Yeah. Then implementing the prompt, and then is it accurate? Is it contextual? Is it what's if the reader read this, and so on and so on. So we need to analyze the responses from the AI. Wow moment from the result of the AI is always there, especially for student. Kepepet.com, right? Then wow, very good, gitu kan? Malas.com, wow, I got the answer, I give it to my teacher, and so on. We have to remind that to our students. Andrew also mentioned cheating is always happen with or without AI anyway. So now it's getting better in cheating. Now, this is a challenge for you. Yeah, so think about it. Do you know the story of Three Little Pigs? Yeah, more or less, yeah. I don't have to read it. Now, using the reading text, write one prompt to help you as an English teacher. Here are some possible tasks. Comprehension questions. Coba nanti pikir kalau ada teksnya ini, terus kita mau bikin comprehension question, promptnya apa? Vocabulary exercise, pilih salah satu aja. Grammar task, summarizes or pictures or speaking activities. Based on that story. Sudah siap? Belum. Saya tunggu. Sudah. Okay, so comprehension question, vocabulary exercise, grammar tasks. Pikir aja dulu sebentar, talk to your neighbor. Then I want you to answer it here. So you have to write a prompt based on Three Little Pig. Comprehension boleh, vocabulary boleh, grammar boleh, apa saja. And answer it in the worksheet. Sudah? ada tanda plusnya di apa? Dipencet aja plusnya, and then answer it there. Ini saya masih share screen.
Dalam tulisannya masih
Yang di rumah?
iya, jadi yang di sana itu yang di Zoom.
Oh, oke. Yang di Zoom lihat ya. Okay, we got some here. Hi, dear. You help me to make my student comprehending the story of Three Little Pig by providing them an interactive activity. Create the lesson plan about analytical exposition for, okay. Do you know the story? Create the lesson. From the story given, yeah, you all are very good in creating a prompt. So the workshop finished. Comprehensive questions based on the text, 3 picks to be answered by beginner level student in reading class. Coba nanti dibuat terus kayak apa teksnya. Okay, there are some example. Let's see. Okay, sambil menulis ya. Using the reading text, please make narrative picture like cartoon stories and the dialogue in each picture. So you ask ChatGPT or Gemini generative AI to make narrative picture like cartoon stories. and the dialogue in each picture. Is it clear? Kira-kira AI-nya ngerti nggak? Tapi dia akan menjawab. Dia nggak nanya, saya nggak paham yang ini nggak. Dia langsung bikin. Gitu ya. Nanti bikinannya kayak apa nanti dicoba. Next one. No. Make the example of narrative text that consists of generic structure and language feature for senior high school grade. Oh, pictures. Oh, typo. Okay. Ya. Jadi nggak kira-kira? Jadi. Jadi semua teks apapun, prompt seperti apapun, no matter what, typos, grammar mistakes, whatsoever, clear, not clear, specific, not specific, they will do it. Namanya AI. So we have to be aware about that. Jadi AI itu pembantu yang sok pinter gitu loh. Dikon apa ya, pokoknya siap gitu. Okay, good. Now, so you have tried creating a prompt. Now let's see, good prompt and bad prompt very quickly. You are an English teacher, create 5 comprehension questions about the story of 3 Little Pigs, focusing on setting, characters, and main event. That's a good prompt. It's clear, more specific, I know what I want. Jadi kalau bikin prompt jangan buru-buru. Think about it, think of your student, think of and so on, and make it structured. Kalau hanya make questions about the story, ya halusinasinya keluar dia. Ya, halunya tinggi. Now, weak question, make questions about the story. That's another weak questions. Not clear, lack of clarity on that. Then if you are an English teacher, so you give a role to the AI, you are an English teacher, create 5 A2 level comprehension questions about the 3 Little Pigs story, focusing on setting, characters, and event. So that's more accurate. Yeah, so every time you create a picture, you want to create a text, you want to create a question, you want a help from the AI, then you have to be specific. Is the result always perfect? No. Need your ability to have a look at that and how will you do it and so on and so on. Put it in your context there. Yeah. This is a general rules, general prompt that I mentioned this morning. You have to give the AI role. Then you have to have the context. Then you can have the task. So the task itu agak belakangan. You are an expert in designing a curriculum, for example, or you are an English teacher. Then that's the role. Then the context, the students, they are this shy and so on and so on and so on. So what's the context? Then the task, create something, create activity, create, yeah. If you have the source, that's very good. If you have 3 Little Pigs, you can mention that's the 3 Little Pig stories because everyone knows about that. If not, you can put an attachment on that. Yeah, so that's become more focused on that. The result good, but better. So when you have to refine it, not that many things that you can you have to change on that. Yeah. This is an example. You are an English teacher. My students are, not my, but your students are A2 learners. Create 5 comprehension questions. Use the story Barnaby's Sweet Search, for example, or 3 Little Pigs, or any stories on that. Then that will become clear. Or you can attach the picture. Sorry, the store is there. Now, we can also use ChatGPT. I show you this morning. You can teach your students to talk to their ChatGPT. For example, you are my English tutor. I'm an English language learner. My proficiency level is A1. I want to practice my English with you. Start asking me some questions to talk about my hobbies and interests. Nantinya dia ngomong apa? Mari kita coba. Saya belum pernah mencoba. Saya kepikiran baru tadi pagi sambil sarapan. Let's see. Hai. Oh. Halo.
Selamat siang. Ada yang bisa saya bantu? Topik yang ingin Anda diskusikan hari ini? Saya siap berdiskusi secara formal.
You are my English tutor. I am an English language learner. My proficiency level is A1. I want you to practice my English with you.
I'd be happy to help you practice. We can go at a pace that suits you. So, what would you like to focus on first? Conversation, vocabulary, or maybe a particular topic you're interested in?
Start asking me some questions to talk about my hobbies and interests.
All right, let's start. You really enjoy, and when did you begin doing it?
Say it again.
No rush at all. Take your time. Whenever you're ready, we'll keep the conversation flowing naturally.
No, you have to ask me a question so that I can practice my English.
Of course. What's a hobby you've always wanted to try but haven't yet? And why do you find it interesting?
I like swimming.
That's great. What do you enjoy most? The feeling of being in the water, the exercise, or something else?
Well, water is very cool.
It truly is. And I imagine that cool water can be so refreshing. Do you prefer swimming in a pool, or do you enjoy swimming in nature, like a lake or the sea?
What is nature?
In this context, nature just means natural places. So like a lake, a river, or the ocean. Basically swimming outdoors rather than in a swimming pool.
Oh, I see. Thank you.
You're very welcome. If you have any more questions or want to chat about another hobby or topic, just let me know.
Okay. Now, let's work only in mobile. Yang sudah download ChatGPT siapa? Ya, dicoba aja sekarang. Coba, especially to help the slow learner. The fluent one, they're good. Of course, still need help sometimes. The slow learner might find some vocabulary. They have problem with the vocabulary. The good thing about this is it's the text is there. Yeah. So that's another suggestion that you can use. Gemini belum bisa. Yeah. Oh yeah, 5 minutes, I know. Oke, tadi dicoba sendiri ya. So again, prompting is not about being smart, it's about being clear. Clear thinking, clear what you want. And also when you teach your slow learners to practice with the ChatGPT, you have to start accompanying them first and guide them slowly, experience with you, and then so that they become independent learner on that. Yeah. So again, involve designing. Jadi sebelum belajar dengan yang slow learners, pikir dulu ya. didesain dulu mau ngomong apa supaya anaknya nggak bingung. Then how to refine, you have to give an example and then practice with them and then you listen and then you give guidance so that they become independent learner. Pastinya nggak malu.
The same prompt and ask ChatGPT or Gemini in English and in Bahasa. Does that make any difference?
Oh yeah. In Bahasa sometimes they have problem with choice word choice, different context. Yeah, just with choice and also intonation and tone. It's like an American speaking Bahasa Indonesia. The information as well. Yeah, the information is it's different because of the database. Yeah. Okay, so thank you. Well, that's 5 minutes. Now we have a generative AI for teaching reading and some other books for free that you can go to Google. Then I will show you later. There are some books for free from ITEL and written by a friend of mine. The latest one just released, this one, generative AI for teaching. It was like a week ago. So it's still fresh new. Then coming soon is generative AI for writing and listening and so on and so on. But belum selesai. Ya, gratis ada di Google. Nanti di Google aja cari buku ITEL and then you will find some in there. Ya. Indonesia Technology Enhanced Language Learning tidak dijual, gratis. So coming soon. This is sorry iklan a little bit. Coming soon, it's going to be a conference Singaraja Bali. 15 to 16 July, Empowering Language Learner in Multicultural Context, Trend in Technology and Pedagogy. Biasanya murah, nanti informasinya belum lengkap. Kalau nanti saya rundingan dengan Budian, mana Budian tadi ya? Saya sedang rundingan sama Budian yang dari UB. Kalau free untuk guru ya nanti kita pikirkan caranya. Belum janji loh ya. Murah banget loh. Another one, how many of you familiar with Tifit? Belum. Kalau belum, namanya tifit.me. You can create text, you can create exercise, you can create and so on. Jadi ask anything. For example, global warming. Nanti dapat teks global warming. Bisa diperpanjang, bisa diperpendek, dan seterusnya. Ada pertanyaannya, ada vocabulary-nya, ada jawabannya. Saya nggak mau demo, tapi nanti dikerjakan di rumah. Pasti bisa. Terus, if you have vocabulary, saya mau mengajar kata-kata 10, masukkan aja katanya 10. Nanti akan dibuatkan teksnya. Yang semua kata 10 itu ada di teks. Belum tentu pas, dilihat lagi, tapi lumayan. Ya, so helping you a lot on that. It's called Tifit. Kalau punya YouTube, taruh aja link YouTube-nya. Then they will give you picture. Then they will give you reading text. Then they will give you question. Dia bisanya hanya giving picture, giving reading text, providing you with questions, vocabulary and exercise and the answer. Kalau disuruh yang lain nggak bisa. Very specific on that. Yeah. How many of you familiar with BRISK? PRISK. Ada? Yeah, you can try BRISK teaching. That's a Chrome extension. Itu lebih gila. Ada 20 alat yang dia punya, especially for teachers. So you can create PowerPoint, you can create a lot of things and explore it yourself. Ya, itunya membentuk. Tapi harus diingat, not always perfect. We have to have the ability to refine that and to make that contextual in your case. Ya. Tadi saya pagi janji mau demo ini sebentar, tapi karena waktu sepertinya. Terus sudah. Ya, thank you very much. And kalau ada pertanyaan di Facebook atau di Instagram atau di WA. Ya, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gumawang Jati, for this wonderful workshop session. And ladies and gentlemen, we move on to the next session that led by Clarity English team. So for the Clarity English team, you may now come forward. Time is yours.
Okay, good afternoon, teachers. Thank you very much for taking the time to attend today's seminar. I'm Ervida from Clarity English Partner Indonesia. So today, to conclude our sessions, I'm going to invite all of you to rethink about independent learning and how, when it is enhanced with the technology pedagogically, it will really help our teaching. Okay, so we are going to start with the first question. With one question is, how can I optimize my students' learning beyond the classroom? As you know, nowadays, our students can learn English from everywhere. They can learn English from the social media, from the short videos, from the online app, or even from the AI tools, just like what Pak Jatis already demonstrated to us. But the question is this learning considered intentional and also structured? I would say that they are probably unstructured. Independent learning does work when certain conditions are met. It works when the learners can really know their level, and then it works when they can follow a structured progression, they can receive feedback, and they are able to monitor their own feedback or their own progress. If one of these elements is missing, then their motivation collapses. Without structure, independent learning will just become a trial and error. That's when the Clarity English comes in. So Clarity English was designed as a pedagogically structured learning material. So each program of Clarity English is CFR aligned. It is skill focused and can be used as a guided self-access learning materials. And it is designed as well to support your classroom teaching. Clarity English was founded in 1992 as a publisher that balances the teaching and technology. So we have more than 30 years of experience working with the Ministry of Education worldwide, working with the British Council, Oxford and Cambridge University Press, and we provide the placement testing, learning content, and also test preparation. And then the program of Clarity English has been implemented globally across universities, government institutions, and also language centers. So in Indonesia, we are trusted by many institutions. One of our clients is the Universitas Indonesia. So the Language Center of Universitas Indonesia has been implementing the dynamic placement test for more than 7 years, and we have been testing more than 10,000 students in their university. So now we are going back to AI. As just we heard and we know that AI is everywhere now. So the question we have now is not whether to use AI, but how. Without the pedagogical direction, the AI will turn to be just an answer generator. It will be a shortcut for our students to get answer and then to submit their task, to submit their project. So how do we guide the AI use pedagogically? I'm going to explain one example by using the example from practical writing. So practical writing here is a program to help our students to learn step by step how to write. So we have in this program, the students will learn how to write essays, how to write letters, emails, reports, and the others. In this program, we are guiding the students step by step. For example, to write an essay, they will be guided starting from, they will understand what is the writing process, what is the structure of the essay, and then how to start from brainstorming, how to write an essay plan, and how to write an essay. So in this program, we also have AI marking tools to help the students. So this is one example. Here, the example is to write an email about 90 words requesting information from an organization called McDougall's. So the students, they can directly write in the program. They can type their emails. And then after they finish typing, they can just click on the AI marking feature on the program, and they will directly get an instant feedback within seconds. So the feedback covers the task achievement, organization, vocabulary and grammar. I'll show you another example. It's a short report. The next task is the students is asked to write a short report about 200 words. They will be given a graph, okay, and then they will write a short report based on the graph. Again, they will type on the program, and then they will click the AI marking feature, and they will get the feedback instantly. So let's see further on the feedback. For the task achievement, the AI said, you address the task by comparing the weather in Cape Town and Hong Kong. You also suggest when Khaled should visit these cities, which directly answers the question. And then for organization of writing, the feedback, the AI says, you show some organization, but the flow of your ideas is not always clear. Your paragraphs sometimes jump between topics, making it harder for the reader to follow your main points easily. And for the vocabulary, the AI say you use a range of everyday words to describe the weather and temperatures, but your vocabulary is generally clear, but there are some areas probably you can use more precise language. And then the grammar, it says that you use a mix of simple and complex sentence structure in your report, but when you attempt with some complex forms, there are several grammatical errors that sometimes affect the clarity. And then there is a one last statement from the AI is, we think this piece of writing is at CFRP2. Okay, so these are the feedbacks from the AI. So with these feedbacks, the students can reflect, and then they can revise and improve their writing, because AI is not giving them the answer, but it just tell them, okay, so this is our feedback for your writing, and then you need to improve it. So the students need to reflect, how should I change my writing? How should I improve my writing? And then this kind of feedback also doesn't replace the teacher's function, but it did help the teacher by giving an instant formative feedback for the students. As you know, we teachers, it is impossible for us to be with our students 24 hours, 7 days a week. We can be with them when they study at 2 a.m. in the morning, right? So this AI feature will help them to get an instant feedback. And then with this feedback for our students, it means for us teachers, we have more time for higher order teaching. So we can design another thing how to help our students, and then it will lead better to learner autonomy. Okay, this is an example about writing, but however, every institution is different, and then the challenges that we face is different. So some may struggle with pronunciation, some may struggle with grammar or probably writing. So before we choose any solution for our students, we need to ask this question. We need to approach from this question is, which English skills do my students need most right now? Is it the grammar? Is it reading, listening, speaking, or writing? Okay, let me explain this to you by giving you two short examples, very quick examples. Okay, the first one, I want to give examples about how we approach everything from the challenges or from the needs of our students. The first example is a group of English pronunciation lecturers in Brawijaya. Okay, so they have these challenges. They have a limited classroom learning time, and then as you know, pronunciation, it requires longer practice time. And then the students have different levels of English skills and exposures. So the lecturers think that, okay, we need a controlled and structured learning materials for independent learning outside the classroom. Because as you know, pronunciation, we need a lot of practice. So the solutions they have here is the Clear Pronunciation 1 and 2 from Clarity English. So how do they implement it? This is the beautiful part. So they integrate the clear pronunciation into the curriculum of the English pronunciation course. In the classroom, the lecturers or the teachers will use their textbooks, and they will introduce the theories and the concepts of the pronunciation, and then the students will also get the exposure from the teachers. But they also do some meaningful drills by using the clear pronunciation. And then outside the classroom, the teachers will assign the students to do an intensive practice by using clear pronunciation. And then clear pronunciation also is included as one of the assessment components of this course, which means that it is a compulsory. So if you don't complete your clear pronunciation, then you will be failed in this subject. So after they run the programs for more than 2 years, they reported a very positive impact on students and teachers. For students, they testify that the students are now more confident in speaking. And then the students really experience what is so-called the independent learning. And then they learn how to manage their time wisely outside the classroom. And then for the teachers themselves, they also feel that the integration of this new technology, it did bring a new learning experience for us as a teachers. And then because the materials are very structured, so it helps the teacher as well to develop a holistic and structured materials for pronunciation. And clear pronunciation provides detailed reports online. So the teachers can monitor and track their students' progress so they know when to offer help, when to offer encouragement for the students. Okay, this is a recap. Next, the second example is from the point of view of a director of a language center in Universitas Syah Kuala in Aceh. So this director have these challenges. His challenges is the graduates have low English competency, and then the students, they do English tests. So when they come into the university, they will do an English test. When they have to graduate, they will do an English test. But the problem is they only do the English test, but they do not acquire any language skills at all. And then the students are not motivated enough to learn English. So he needs an engaging and relevant general English online learning materials for the university students to build the English skills, particularly in the 3rd to the 5th semester. And then the learning materials must support independent learning because it is almost impossible to have the students to come to the language center to learn because they are very busy. And then he chose the study stream English from Clarity English. So this is the implementation. To do this program, they launched a brand new program called the USK English Access Program. So it is an institutional learning pathway supporting graduation requirements. So this program covers 18 weeks of independent learning with the grammar, reading, and pronunciation materials and 5 tutorial sessions by Zoom. And then this program is recommended particularly for semester 3 students with the specific academic conditions, which is the low pretest score, or they have a low result in the English MKU, Mata Kuliah Umum. And then the program certificate can be used to fulfill the graduation requirements. And then they have been running this program for 1 semester, and we can see here that the high percentage of students testify that the programs help to improve their English proficiency. And then the program is easy to use, and they are also highly satisfied with the program. Okay, so now it's our time to do a quick hands-on activity. Now, I have shown you 2 examples how to approach from the needs or from the challenges of our students. So we back to this question. Which English skills do my students need most right now? Please, you can think about your students' main challenge. You can think about which skill or gap matters most for your students. I believe you already have answer in your mind because I know that you know your students very well and you know what they need and what are their challenges. So now let's see which program which might help your students. So here we have several programs for placement testing. To help you understand your students' English level very quickly, you can use the placement test or the speaking test. So both of the tests can be used for placement testing or for progress checking. And then after that, you can direct your students to do a learning by using the reading program, pronunciation, writing, academic English or study skills, and then IELTS preparation or grammar, or probably you can choose study stream English and integrated solution to help your students' English learning. Okay, so now you already know, you already have answer in your mind, what does my students need at the moment? And you have seen this program, so I believe that you already have an idea, okay, this program might help my students because my students is very quite slow in grammar. Probably he needs more grammar practice, so they can choose the Tense Buster. That's an example. Okay, so now I'll give you an opportunity to directly try the program. So you can scan the QR code, or you can type on the link, and you can also take a picture of this. So we will give you an access to try on the program, so you can really experience how to use the program. Okay, let's see. I'll click the link and show you. Yeah, continue to destination. Okay, this is the page. Please scroll. Yeah. So here you see. Let's try one program. Let's try with the study skill success. Pak yang kanan. Study skill success. Yeah, click start. Okay, so later after you go to this page, remember you have to sign in or register so that you can track your progress. Okay, so we can click sign in or register. Okay, let's try. You can just put your email and then your password. But remember, what do you key in? So, yeah, you have to create, please click create an account. Yeah. And then you can type your email, password, and then confirm your password. But remember what you type. And then the next time you log into the program, just use the same name so that you can track your progress from time to time. Okay. Maybe you can try to put an email and a password. Yeah. Just try. Okay, so you can try on your phone. So the program can run on your phone or and your laptop and your tablet. So you can try with all devices. You can try it now. Yeah, it's a time for you, so you can directly try it now. Okay, just use a random password. Yeah, and then confirm. Okay, and then you can click create an account. Okay. Yeah, and then try to log in. Yeah, okay, so this is the program. So later you can check it out. Now I invite you to use your phone so you can try on. Okay, Pak, can you click the start learning? Yeah. So these are the materials from the study skill success, which you can try. Okay. Okay, can you go back to the presentation slides? Okay, I'll let you have an opportunity to take picture if you haven't take picture. So you can take picture, and then you have free access for 1 month to all the programs in this link. Okay, so the access will end by the 31st of March. So you can take picture and then you can try. And then please be noted that for practical writing, the access with the AI marking feature, that the trial will end on this Saturday. Yeah, on this Saturday. So please make sure that you try the practical writing first because it will be closed earlier than the other programs. Okay. Please go to the next slide. Yeah, and then I also invite you to try the practical writing after this seminar. You can write a short essay, just imitating that you are a student, or you can write a short report or short email. Just try to write in the practical writing and experience the AI feedback, the AI marking feature. So after you type, you can click on the AI marking, and then you see how it works, and then you reflect on one question. How would my students benefit from this kind of feedback? And then you can think about how you can use these materials to help your students in their learning. Okay, so we hope that you can try it. Yeah. Okay. So I believe that we know that actually independent learning is very important for our students, and then because our classroom learning time is very limited, and then since English is a language, they need to have exposure, and then they need to have practice all the time. So independent learning outside the classroom is very important. And then, as I said before, they need a structured approach, a structured material to help them improve in the independence learning in order to really get some improvement. Yeah. So I would like to invite all of us to take this seriously and really think how we can help our students to learn independently beyond the classroom, outside the classroom. So I'd like to close with a statement. Independent learning does not mean learning alone. So it does not mean our students learning alone by themselves outside the classroom, but independent learning means learning with structured, learning with structure, learning with feedback, and learning with purpose. Okay, so we need to provide them the feedback, we need to provide them the structure, we need to provide them the purpose in order for them to be able to be a successful independent learner. Okay, thank you for your kind attention and reflection, and I hope my sharing is beneficial for you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Evinda, for this informative and also insightful workshop session. So, before we close this seminar, we would likely to invite once again Dr. Gumbawang Jati and also Professor Chen and also Professor Dia to please come forward. Please don't be tired. And also Mrs. Dewi to give a certificate award for our incredible speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to remind you before we close the seminar, we kindly remind you to complete the feedback form and also the present form through the provided link in the handbook. And your feedback is very important to us and it is also a require in order to receive your certificate.
Itu untuk sertifikat dari betul. Sekalian diundang sama materi. Ini untuk feedback aja ya.
Tapi nanti saya reminder. Jadi ini khusus untuk
sekaligus dapat sertifikat.
Baik.
Bahasa Indonesia saja. Karena kan ini sudah selesai materinya untuk memastikan kita bahwa
Baik, Bapak dan Ibu, saya mohon izin kembali untuk mengingatkan bahwasanya Bapak Ibu dapat men-scan barcode yang ada di depan sebagai pengisian presensi yang nantinya akan dikirimkan e-sertifikat ke email Bapak Ibu sekalian. Beserta dengan materi. Terima kasih. All right. We would like kindly to invite Professor Chen and also Dr. Gumawang to please come forward to the stage. And also we kindly invite Mrs. Dewi to please come forward to give the certificate for the speakers. Give applause to our incredible speakers, everyone. All right, thank you very much for our incredible speakers and give applause once again. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now reached the conclusion of this international seminar. We extend our deepest appreciation for the active participation and enthusiasm shown by all participants. With that, today's event is officially concluded. Stay motivated, take care of your health, and let us continue to innovate, collaborate, and shape the future of English language education together, empowered by technology and guided by human values. Thank you very much and have a nice day.